Oh, it is a rinse and repeat kind of week around here. Frequent storm season. We have certainly seen it the last few days.
And we kick off your 4 to 5 with a live look at radar. And in Burlington, where skies look pretty clear now, but Eric, we are expecting some storms later on today.
Yeah, we've got some scattered storms even as we talk about now, but I mean, could it get worse? The possibility does exist. The big question is going to be how bad and how widespread will these storms be? And that really remains to be seen. Let's go ahead and talk about it with a forecast a little bit different than what we were talking about yesterday, that's for sure. But when you look at the graphic here, overall, it's not as bad as it could be. Some of the scattered showers and thunderstorms stretch from Mount Airy and really right where Interstate 77 goes through Surry County, stretching south and west, and that goes through Wilkesboro and then out of our viewing area closer to Hickory. We were looking at Wilkesboro a little bit earlier, and you can see now another line starting to move through, and that's from Lenoir up through the Yadkin Valley, and a decent amount of lightning associated with that. I want to move back to the north as well as we look to Mount Airy. That's a pretty strong cell right there moving through Surry County. So far, we're not seeing anything in the way of warnings across the region, whether it's thunderstorms or even hail or anything like that yet. We could see that and probably will before the night is over with. Here's why. You look at the high pressure off the coast, we got that southwesterly flow that keeps us nice and warm out there. And then here comes a cold front. Honestly, I think our rain chances, yes, we're going to see scattered thunderstorms each afternoon because it's that time of the year. It's what happens. But looking at tomorrow, and this time stamp is at noon tomorrow, that cold front will start to push through. And when you get a definite cold front like that, that's when you have a greater chance of a more concentrated shower or storm. Even on our future cast here, it doesn't look quite as bad as it could be. But we always keep our guard up this time of the year, don't we? Because that is what happens. We'll see overnight lows tonight, still very mild. We got those at 73 degrees, a few storms here and there. We'll keep an eye out for you. Tomorrow, same story. It's kind of the same old over and over. 91 degrees tomorrow, partly cloudy with a few late day storms.
Developing right now in Guilford County, we're learning more about Greensboro Reverend Anthony Spearman, who was found dead in his home. Police say it happened earlier this month, just 1 week after a 911 call says a robbery happened at his home. His neighbor told us today that Spearman ran over to his house for help.
It's strange to think that, I just met the guy, and I'm a former minister as well, and so I was actually really looking forward to talk with him and getting some of his stories and things that he's, worked with in Greensboro, and I'm still just kind of processing, I'm not gonna get to ask him over for tea or anything like that, and so that's a little strange still.
Recently released 911 calls allege someone in Spearman's home was robbed at gunpoint a week before his death. Listen to the snippet of that call.
Tell me exactly what happened.
Just walked over and said that someone just robbed him at gunpoint.
Okay, where exactly was he when this happened?
He was at his address.
Okay, and where's the suspect now?
I don't know. He just left in a car.
Okay, when did this happen? How long ago?
I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute. It just happened. He just came over.
The Guilford County Sheriff's Office is investigating Spearman's death. We did reach out to them for more information about the armed robbery. As of airtime, we have not heard back.
All right, let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup now. First up today, the Guilford County Board of Elections is tallying absentee ballots in the very close Greensboro mayoral race. Incumbent Nancy Vaughn is the projected winner, but Justin Outling says he isn't giving up. He says he wants to make sure all absentee ballots are counted. The Board of Elections expects to have this done by Friday. Right now, just 425 votes separate the candidates, which is just over 1% of the total votes. Now, if the final results lead to a difference of less than 1%, there could be a recount. When it comes to city council at-large seats, all incumbents won last night. Yvonne Johnson, Mary Kay Abuzawader, and Hugh Holston. Candidate Katie Rasabi came in a close fourth. President Biden is back in the Oval Office today, less than a week after getting COVID. Testing this morning confirmed testing originally confirmed the president had the new and highly contagious BA.5 variant. He isolated for 5 days and will now wear a mask around others for 10 days since he tested negative today. Greensboro police arrested a juvenile they believe is responsible for 2 recent Wells Fargo robberies. They say the child robbed the bank on Battleground yesterday and the one on Randleman a couple weeks ago. You'll remember the Randleman robbery because the suspect was wearing an FBI hat at the time. The Guilford County Sheriff's Office is looking to hire detention officers. Tonight it's holding an open house to answer questions about pay, incentives, certification, and schedules. The county is offering $5,000 bonuses for newly hired detention officers. The meeting is from 6 to 8 at the Sheriff's Office.
Right now, a Triad nonprofit is stepping up to address a big community need. Across our state, more than 800 families are experiencing homelessness. And since the start of the pandemic, the numbers, they just keep going up. But today, WFMY News 2's Jalen Gilkey learned about a new place opening soon for those in need of a place to call home.
Yes, Lauren, Lydia's house in Asheboro is designed to provide a safe space for families who are without housing in Randolph County. Once they open in September, they'll become the first family-focused shelter in all of Randolph County.
Everywhere, homelessness is just on the rise with what has happened in the housing market.
So, Lydia's place is trying to do something about that.
We are opening sometime between the middle of September and the end of September, and this will be our first 12 beds that we're opening.
And our most vulnerable communities are in dire need of help.
Lydia's Place is a new shelter for women and families. It is the first shelter for women and families in all of Randolph County. Our mission is to disrupt the cycle of homelessness and promote sustained independence for those seeking secure shelter.
But why is providing these spaces for families so important?
So to have a shelter here where folks can come, get back on their feet, stay in the community that they're used to, and then get back into a stable situation, that's what we want to do for people.
If you'd like to donate your time or resources to Lydia's Place, I've attached a link to their contact information in this web story on WFMYnews2.com. Your 4 to 5 will be right back.
You know, giving back, it's something that we talk about a lot on this show and also in society in general. Helping others, that's something that we all feel like we should be doing. There's one local company called Beyond Sports NC that is using athletics and athletic gear to help Title I schools. I spoke to Mike Kennedy with Beyond Sports NC about this program. There you go. That's what every kid wants to play with, just a bag of sports equipment. I love that. Mike knows this all too well. I mean, you guys, there's this idea, I think, of helping out the schools. I didn't understand how big this need is, but tell me about that.
Yeah, so last year we started working with Title I schools here in Guilford County, specifically the elementary schools. And what you find is that a lot of kids, you know, first through second grade, kindergarten, they want to play on the playground, but then once they get a little bit older, they want to start using the balls, they want to start playing different games, the playground gets a little boring to them, and most of these classes don't have any of the equipment. They may have one ball for 30 different kids.
For 30 kids.
For 30 kids,
I mean, that, so you saw that need with Beyond Sports. And then, so tell me a little bit about when they get this, you're collecting these, right, and putting these bags together. What's in here?
Yeah, so what we do is like right now we're in a drive and we collect like the dodgeballs, the footballs, the basketballs, baseballs, bases, air pumps, basically anything that you could use as a kid on a playground. Take you back to the day when we were growing up and the stuff that you wanted to play. And then we give these to the teachers in the class. And so when they go out to recess every day, they now have a bag full of stuff. And then we also come during the week and teach a lot of the kids how to play the different games.
Oh, that's cool. That's invaluable. Those kids, they won't get that otherwise if you don't have somebody there. You did it Christmas last year, is that correct? And now you're doing it again. How many of these do you give out and what do you want this to grow?
Well, last year we gave out 30 during Christmas, 3 bags to 10 different schools. This time we're trying to raise enough money to do 100. But ultimately, what we'd like to do is to have every school, every Title I school, elementary school, have a bag for every class.
That's perfect. Thank you for what you're doing. That's good stuff. Now we know. Look at this. Show this. See, that's what it's all about, playing the game. And it was shocking to me when he said that some of the class, all the classes out there to play recess, and there's one basketball, maybe a football, and so they're putting, you know, a bag full of balls to take to this.
That's wild. One basketball and one football. I always think that PE and recess is just so important because it's like an outlet. It's a way for kids to recharge their batteries. And it's kind of hard to do that if you only have one ball for like a 30-kid classroom.
And I don't know about you guys, but I remember when I was in school and, you know, our school was going through budget troubles and they were figuring out what to cut. I mean, gym and the extracurriculars were definitely
the first
things to go,
arts.
right? And I think, you know, if you think about it, one basketball is a lot cheaper than 50 basketballs, right? So they're like, well, if we can, you know, trim a little off here and a little off there, I think, you know, we can make the budget.
There was something I didn't think of that Mike brought up after the interview, and he said, you know, a lot of times some of the kids that, you know, they have some struggles, they'll get in trouble a lot. He said the more equipment we can get out there, more they're involved, and it's kind of the idle hands thing. Because you keep them busy and working with this, and they'll learn a game, a sport, something they like, and keep out of trouble. It was really
getting them prepared for middle and high school. I was thinking that same thing too, and I think just when you get something new, it just makes you feel confident. And it gives you some type of pride rather than if you have a busted soccer ball.
Right.
Can barely, you know, get kicked around. It makes you feel like somebody cares about you and that you're worth something.
I loved when I would get a new basketball or football as a kid. That was just like the best thing. It even smells good.
And the worst thing is playing basketball with a ball that even is missing a little
Deflated
bit of air. Have you
bit.
done that before? And it's just like, this thing, I can't dribble this
like
thing.
we're Tom Brady over here trying to play a sport.
Deflate game.
Sometimes I miss some of the the old school games on the field, right? Like, do you remember the ball that's connected to the string?
Oh,
and you
tetherball.
Tetherball.
Tetherball was my favorite. I actually got hit in the head with one.
Of course you did.
And
We
had
all
to get
did.
sent home early.
Everybody did.
Everybody did.
Yeah, I love that game.
We're coming back. Talk to us on Facebook.
Sorry,
My
Tom
mom
Brady
said,
fans.
Still hot out there. We get a little relief, by the way, temperature-wise, by the time the weekend rolls around, but we have to wait a few days, don't we? Look at the readings now, 89 in Greensboro, 90 in Winston-Salem. We've seen worse, though, that's for sure. To the south, starting to bake a little bit. Siler City, Asheboro, Lexington at 93, and if you head down to Montgomery County, Troy at 95 degrees. Northern parts of the viewing area, not quite as bad. 73 tonight, a few storms, mainly in the evening hours. We don't expect widespread damaging storms, but an isolated storm here or there. Partly cloudy tomorrow, that temperature still at 91, and anytime we're seeing those low 90s, you know that late day shower or storm chance does exist. Couple of these storms starting to building in this one line from Martinsville through Mount Airy and down to Wilkesboro. If we look at it section by section here, a lot of lightning in the Martinsville area. In fact, that's probably the strongest thunderstorm cell that we've seen so far this afternoon. Still kind of a mess in Mount Airy too. That's headed over into Stokes County. So if you're anywhere from Danbury down to King, you'll probably get a thunderstorm in the next 30 minutes or less. And then this one in North Wilkesboro, we're not seeing warnings in our viewing area, but if you look down here toward Burke and Caldwell County, that's from Lenoir down to Hickory and near Morganton, that's a good bit west from us, but still they do see that severe thunderstorm warning. We'll be watching this heading into the evening. Notice the winds coming in out of the south around that high pressure periphery, and that brings in warm air for us. That cold front, we think, will probably usher in a better chance of late day showers and storms, and that should be on our Friday. Until then, we're like this, low 90s Thursday, Friday, both days 40% chance. Up that to a 60% chance, late day storms for your weekend, but temperatures drop to the mid 80s. Stay there into Monday. Back to normal we go though for Tuesday, Wednesday, 30% chance of a late day thunderstorm. Temperatures back up to 90 to 91. Our normal high this time of the year is in the upper 80s at 88 degrees.
Millions of dollars are at stake, and no, this is not a story about the lottery. Instead, this possible payout dates back to a time long, long ago.
Long ago, an extremely rare dinosaur skeleton is up for public auction for the first time ever, and it's expected to rake in loads of cash.
He's a prehistoric marvel, 77 million years old, and he's for sale. This Gorgosaurus skeleton is up for auction July 28 at the world-famous Sotheby's.
Always wanted to sell a dinosaur, and here we are, finally doing that.
Cassandra Hatton is Sotheby's global head of science and popular culture and says a specimen like this is a rare find.
It is rare to find a Gorgosaurus, period. There are maybe 20 known Gorgosaurus specimens in the world versus more than 50 T-Rex skeletons.
The bones were discovered in Montana in 2018. These dinosaurs were known to live in the western U.S. and Canada. It's a relative of the T-Rex, smaller, but still a giant by any definition. The Gorgosaurus is 10 feet tall and 22 feet long. Not exactly the kind of thing that fits in the average living room, but it might if you're the kind of person that has $5 to $8 million to spare. Because the owner chose to sell the massive fossil rather than donate it to a museum, it's the first time a Gorgosaurus is available for private ownership. Hatton says there's been a lot of interest.
In recent years, we have seen dinosaurs coming to auction and well exceeding their estimates, so that could be the case here given the rarity of Gorgosaurus. Who knows?
A group of experts worked to carefully transport and reassemble the Gorgosaurus so it's ready for auction, the latest chapter in its 77 million year journey.
Interesting.
Every time I see that full skeleton, all I think of is the last scene in the first Jurassic Park when the real dinosaur ripped up the skeleton and yelled, screamed. Remember that?
And then the sign fell,
banner
right?
came
Yeah,
down.
the banner.
Yes.
So my thing about this is public auction, you know what I mean? So usually when you think about these things, you're thinking about a museum. But if I'm just the average person who happens to have $5 or $8 million,
The average person.
what am I gonna do with this? Just put it in the house somewhere
In your
and just
front room.
and just look at it and be like, I was able to afford this?
If you
like,
have that much money to throw away, then
Yeah.
he can put it in, he or she, I should say, can put it in whatever they want to.
Yeah.
They'll build a room
but
for it.
why? I just feel like something
say
like
they
this
have
should
it.
be, you know, used for education purposes or something, not just to have
I mean,
in the
it's just
house.
like it's like the person who buys like a Van Gogh or like a very expensive painting
Yeah.
of some sort. I mean, what are you going to do with it? You just put it on the wall and show how much money you have.
That's
Yeah, I
exactly
guess
right.
so.
I heard this the other day that they found a new Van Gogh, which it never happens, and it was on the back of an original Van Gogh. Apparently, he would save money and paint on the back to not have to buy another canvas. And this
That's
person
wild.
that had it didn't know. Oh, Oh, there's another one
There's
back
another
there.
one.
Interesting.
Could you imagine if dinosaurs were still around right now?
I was just talking about this. I said, what if someone wants to take like these skeletons and create
DNA.
clones or something like that?
Like
They just,
Jurassic Park?
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
It would be wild to be knocked off the top of the food chain.
Yeah. There's
hate
too
to
much
say it.
going on in the world with COVID.
Seriously, I don't need a dinosaur.
All these
right
different
now.
diseases popping up. We don't have time for
Please.
this.
Dinosaur pox coming up next. All right, we'll be back. Dino pox.
Dino pops.
Dino pop.
We are on top of breaking news this afternoon. The man accused of opening fire on an Independence Day parade in a Chicago suburb has been indicted on 117 felony charges. 21 of them are first-degree murder counts. Prosecutors say 21-year-old Robert Cremo admitted to the shooting that left 7 people dead and more than 30 wounded during a parade in Highland Park, Illinois. Authorities say the wounded range in age from 8 to 80, including an 8-year-old boy who is now paralyzed from the waist down after the shooting severed his spine. Prosecutors say police found more than 80 spent shell casings and the semi-automatic rifle used in the attack. Investigators believe the accused gunman blended in with the fleeing crowd to get away. They say he briefly contemplated a second attack in Wisconsin before returning to Illinois, where police arrested him.
Switching gears now, the 2-year Jeopardy hosting search is finally over. Sony Entertainment Studios says co-hosts Ken Jennings and Mayim Bialik will continue sharing this role. You'll remember several people filled in after longtime host Alex Trebek passed away from pancreatic cancer back in 2020. Jennings is a past winner of the show, while Bialik is an actress and neurosurgeon. So many of our viewers, they love Jeopardy and some other game shows. So I asked you on my Facebook, what game show would you love to host? Lewis Reed says The Price is Right. Cheryl Williams wrote a much cleaner version of the Newlywed Game. Tavika Broom says Wheel of Fortune. Anthony Davis says The Weakest Link Goodbye. And then our own Sydney Moore said a Family Feud or Deal or No Deal. I said Family Feud as well. If I had the same humor as Steve Harvey, I would love to host Family Feud.
Family Feud is funny. It
Yeah.
has been funny for decades, even the original run. For me, it's the Newlywed Game.
Oh, really?
But I want to do it the way they did.
Yeah,
It was edgy and funny.
Yeah, I think if you were to clean it up any more than it
Loses
is, it's not going to be entertaining.
Well, then if you think about it, so it was edgy for that time
It was.
period.
Yeah.
What would be edgy for this time period? I mean, we kind of go off the rails.
We
these
do. We
days.
even touch it close on this show sometimes.
You know,
so.
if you put that show on like an HBO or something
Oh
like that,
my gosh.
then you're in a
Yeah.
whole different
Where
world.
The kids will have to go to another room.
Right.
That's right.
You
That's
could
right.
allow certain four-letter words. You could talk about things
Yeah.
that are not appropriate for children.
Which is
But
what they
things
do.
that, you know, newlyweds talk about in the
And I
series.
loved how you and I talked about this earlier. They will argue, like they literally argue
Yeah.
with each other, and it is so funny. And you know, Bob Eubanks back in the day would just bait them, you know, just to make them. Oh, it was so funny. I love that show.
What about you, Chad?
I think I really like The Price is Right, and I've always
I
loved
could
The
see
Price
you
is
a fun
doing
one.
that. I could see you do that.
And when I was growing up, obviously we were in school during The Price is Right during the school year, but it was the summertime when we got to stay home and we could
Yes.
watch The Price is Right.
And every time I was sick
loved
from
it.
school, I always saw
Yes,
Prices Right.
right.
And way back then, they did Wheel of Fortune in the daytime when I was a kid, and so I got to watch that. But Match Game is another one that I would love to host. Too,
Yeah.
so it'd be fun.
That's a
about
good
you?
one. Oh, I said Family Feud. I just
Oh, yeah.
love how Steve Harvey plays with the families and
Right.
he jokes around about the answers that they give. I feel like he just takes that show to the next level.
He makes
so.
a comedy show instead of just a game show.
Yeah,
Yep,
really.
it's a lot of, and I like to play along at home, so I'd love to, you
Yep.
know, be in the
Survey
studio.
said.
We'll be right back.
Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check, mic check. Day 1 of training camp here in Spartanburg. Well, at least the Wyndham's in our area.
What we can do after your 5 o'clock?
Good afternoon and welcome to the 4 to 5 on this Wacky Wednesday. Wacky Wednesday. I'm Chad Silver here with Eric Chilton, Lauren Coleman. You know the group.
Yeah, we're all here. Thanks for watching us on WFMY News 2, Fire Stick, Roku, and the WFMY News 2 app. As we know, we're in frequent storm season. So, Eric, what's the latest on the system headed our way?
So we've got scattered storms and showers really everywhere, but it's mostly north and west, and then a little bit to the southwest that hadn't really had a chance to work its way into our area just yet. You look at the temperatures, though, 92 in High Point, 92 Asheboro, 93 Lexington, so we're hot enough, that's for sure. It doesn't take much lift in the atmosphere to trigger off thunderstorms when you're seeing temperatures like these. Even 89 in Greensboro and 90 in Reedsville. Big differences from north to south today. Some of our southern counties are definitely in the mid-90s. Lows tonight will be at 73. Again, a few storms. We'll show you the radar next. And then 91 tomorrow, partly cloudy. Again, same old summertime forecast. It's that late day 30 to 40% chance of pop-up showers and storms. Think we'll see that again for Thursday, Friday, and maybe an increase in rain chances for our weekend. Here's what the radar looks like now with the heaviest thunderstorm activity from Martinsville, Virginia through Mount Airy and down to Wilkesboro. If you look to the north, a lot of lightning in this system, and this goes all the way up. Danville, by the way, you're next in line, maybe 30 minutes or so. You'll see heavier showers and storms and lots of lightning strikes. That goes through Patrick Springs and all the way down to Mount Airy. As that pushes into Stokes County, probably King, and definitely Danbury, they're going to see those thunderstorms moving in the next little bit. And then North Wilkesboro's calmed down a little bit, but to the south, still kicking up a little dust around the Hickory area. Here's what our 7-day looks like. Low 90s, that's again for Thursday and Friday with a 40% chance of late day storms. It's a 60% for your weekend. Highs go into the mid 80s. That's more comfortable. 85 to 86 for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Back to the low 90s and rain chances diminish a little bit. A 30% chance for Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup. The Guilford County Board of Elections is tallying absentee ballots in the very close Greensboro mayoral race. Incumbent Nancy Vaughn is the projected winner, but Dustin Outling says he isn't giving up just yet. He says he wants to make sure all absentee ballots are counted. The Board of Elections expects to have this done by Friday. Right now, just 425 votes separate the candidates, which is just over 1% of the total votes. If the final results lead to a difference of less than 1%, there could be a recount.
A judge sentenced the last 2 former Minneapolis police officers convicted of violating George Floyd's civil rights. J. Alexander King will spend 3 years in prison, while Tu Tao got 3.5 years. They were convicted in February after a jury found they deprived Floyd of medical care and failed to stop Derek Chauvin from kneeling on his neck. Chauvin and another former officer have already been sentenced. New at 4:30, the Biden administration has offered a deal to Russia aimed at bringing home 2 Americans, WNBA star Brittany Griner and Paul Whelan. This is the first time the U.S. government has publicly revealed any concrete action on Griner's release. It's unclear what the deal is or whether it'll be enough for Russia to release them.
Right now, tensions between Russia and the U.S. are spilling over into outer space. Moscow now says it intends to withdraw from International Space Station after 2024. NASA and other international partners want to keep the station in orbit until 2030. But without the Russians, that may not be possible.
Already orbiting on borrowed time, the ISS could have its longevity shortened further by this announcement from Moscow. Yuri Borisov, Russia's new space director, tells President Vladimir Putin, quote, "The decision to leave the station after 2024 has been made, so Russia can begin building its own space station." Putin's response? Good.
Do you want the relationship to end?
No, absolutely not.
Robin Gatens, NASA's ISS director, taken by surprise at a conference.
We haven't received any official word from the partner as to the news today, and so we'll be talking more about their plan going forward.
Also caught off guard, the U.S. State Department.
It's an unfortunate development given the critical scientific work performed at the ISS.
Up in space, the ISS crew currently includes an Italian, 3 Russians, 3 Americans. The rotating commander, a Russian cosmonaut, Oleg Artemiev. NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren's reaction?
We haven't heard anything officially. Of course, we were trained to do a mission up here, and that mission is one that requires the whole crew.
On the ISS, the Russian segment provides all propulsion, controlling the station's altitude. The U.S. controls orientation and provides satellite communication and solar power. Cosmonauts and astronauts work together but operate their respective segments, even during difficult moments like the war in Ukraine and this announcement from Moscow. Here's what Lindgren told us back in March.
The only way that we can succeed is if we all as a crew work together.
How do you keep that level of professionalism when there are issues happening 250 miles below?
Our lives depend on them, their lives depend on us.
Among the unanswered questions, what's the exact timeline of the Russian pullout? Is Moscow serious about it? And could the U.S. and its partners somehow keep the ISS operating without its critical Russian partners? I asked NASA Administrator Bill Nelson about this possibility back in March.
What is the contingency plan? Well, we know that we can continue it for the short term, and we'd have to do other things, and those contingency plans are already there.
But the specifics of those contingency plans are unclear. And no question, keeping the ISS in orbit without Russian help is much more challenging.
That's really interesting and a little troubling
unnerving.
and makes me a little uncomfortable. What are your thoughts about it?
So for me, I keep thinking about them as scientists, because astronauts are really scientists and cosmonauts. And I'll bet you even the Russian cosmonauts are thinking, this is not politics, this is science, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that they probably want to work together and keep doing their thing, but you got to do what the government says, and they're going to have to. What worries me the most is the fact that we're going to have to put people up there now that are, I guarantee you right now, they're training our people to try to take those spots, you know, and that's not easy to do in a short period of time, even 2 years.
2024, yeah.
Right.
Honestly, don't let the space door hit you on the way out. I am so sick of Russia screwing everything up for everybody else.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's got to be more countries on this planet that are interested in getting into that into the cosmonaut field. I mean, I'm sure that we're going to be hearing about other countries saying, you know, we want to step up, we want to have a stake in the game, we want to be a part of the International Space Station, or at least I hope so. Because I am just so sick of talking about Russia.
You know, it's almost like we're building up like the 1950s again, when it was always Russia.
And that's why I said it seems a little troubling. Like, what are you really trying to do? You know.
I know. We'll see. We'll let you know as soon as we hear it.
Yeah, so back here on Earth, it is a big day for the Carolina Panthers. It's the start of training camp in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
There's a lot at stake this year. We've got a stacked list of quarterbacks, including the latest addition, Baker Mayfield.
Yes, and will McCaffrey stay healthy? Lots of questions. Amanda Ferguson is down at Spartanburg with the latest. Amanda.
A lot to talk about here in Spartanburg. It is day one of the Carolina Panthers training camp. Some guys coming out here smiling, others jumping around because, hey, it's day one and they're excited to get the work done and get ready for the season to start. Now, the quarterback competition, that's the biggest story here. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield battling it out for that starting role. The two walking out onto the field together today. Practice starting later than usual. The team moving up its walkthroughs before practice instead of after. How did the team feel about that?
Well, there's pros and negatives to both. Now this practice becomes a little bit hotter. That's the negative of it. A lot of guys had good feedback. They like the walkthrough right before practice. I think that helps them. I think, you know, we have some new players. Walking through before practice helps you a lot more practicing better. You know, but at the end of the day, the schedule's the schedule. You know, whatever it is, the guys will attack it. I thought it was good for us today, and hopefully we can continue to battle the heat. I expect the guys to come out. It's obviously not real long. I mean, after stretch, I think it was like 60, an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and whatever. So it's not a real long practice, but I want elite focus on execution, and I want really good effort. And now these guys have to go recover their bodies and get ready to come back and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, no matter what time practice starts here, it is always going to be hot, that's for certain. But there's a trend that we've been seeing throughout camp. Last year it was all about seeing Sam Darnold. Now it's about seeing him and Baker Mayfield battle it out for that quarterback position. We will hear from both of those guys coming up in Sports at 6.
A little friendly competition there.
Always. You could feel the tent. Those two were walking together, probably from the dorms out to the field, and you know, it's just, I mean, that's what everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
So you know that that's all they're thinking about.
And you know, peripherally you see the cameras,
Right.
and they're all
Yeah.
watching the two of you
Okay,
together.
here we go.
Right.
You got to, still be professional about it, smile.
Yeah, I mean, we know we're stacked. We got 4 quarterbacks, and they're trying to figure out who goes where. My big question is if we can just keep Christian McCaffrey healthy for one season.
Oh gosh,
just one season.
How about
Just-
1 week? Let alone
right,
one season.
give me one full season with Christian. It's interesting to see how all that plays out, but I have a strong feeling if I'm Darnold's agent or some of the others, they're probably fishing around a little bit, see what happens, because Mayfield's kind of a proven entity.
Yeah, and I mean, think about what it's like for that new quarterback, the one who was just drafted. His name escapes me right now,
Yeah,
but
me too.
I mean, you're basically third, right? Like
At least.
Yeah. But hey, you never know. I love that there are enough quarterbacks that there's a good competition going, and it's nobody's just resting on their laurels. You got to play like this, it's your best
Your
day
life
out there.
depends on it. Well,
Yeah.
I don't get too caught up in all the sports stuff, so I'm just excited about football season.
I am too.
The viewing parties, the rotel, and all that good stuff.
I can't wait to say the rotel.
The rotel,
I love
yes.
rotel. It's the spicier
Yeah.
the better.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, we always get back to food.
Yes, always. I'm gonna bring it back there.
Well, why not? Hey, you need food to survive.
It is what it's proven fact.
We're just talking about survival techniques over here, right?
We're here to help you. News you can use.
Right.
We're coming right back.
I love food.
Me too. What's for dinner tonight, Chad?
Right here, mic check. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Car dealerships. Some folks love them, some folks aren't a fan. I'm the latter. Until I went to Rice Toyota and I was blown away. I've never been in a car dealership like this. The lobby felt like an airport lobby and the service line reminded me of the Chick-fil-A drive-thru where you're greeted with a friendly face and a tablet. The brains behind the renovation, Mary Rice, and I got to meet her.
I really wanted this. I really wanted to be good at it. I wanted to make my family proud. I wanted to make my children proud. And I wanted to give back to this community because everything that I've ever had in my whole life is because of the people of Greensboro and the people at Toyota.
Mary Rice is the dealer principal at Rice Toyota in Greensboro. She is the woman in charge of planning ahead for the company's electric vehicle future.
When my dad became of age where he was ready to retire, I then naturally moved up into his role.
But this family business dates back one more generation. Rice says her grandfather purchased Rice Toyota as the very first Toyota shop in the Southeast.
My grandfather's here, my dad's here.
Big shoes to fill.
I learned the sales of big items on a whole different scale. I learned them in real estate, which is very similar to car dealerships. You're still working with managing inventories, supply and demand, getting a big ticket item financed.
Before dealer principal, Rice was more hands-on in every department as general manager for 10 years.
There would be days where I would come in and I would feel, man, this is going to be a tough day. I've got a lot to tackle. And I felt the spirit of my grandfather who started this store. I still feel his spirit every time I'm in this store. Just whispering words of encouragement. I felt the spirit of my aunt, who was a dealer principal back in the 80s.
Rice says she desperately needed the loving spirit from family. As she was building her career, she was struggling with infertility at home.
I struggled with infertility for 10 years. And when I was struggling with it, not many people were talking about it. And that was about the same time that I was learning this new automotive industry.
Rice says by the grace of all things good, she now has a son, Ransom, and a daughter, Magnolia.
There aren't words to describe how lucky I am. There aren't words to describe the love that I feel, the joy that I feel being at home, the joy that I feel being at work. The family here is just as important to me as the family at home. Everybody here has been with me through the last 10 years and seen how we've turned this dealership into something really very unique and something to be proud of.
I thought it was so cool when I got there, and when I said it felt like the Chick-fil-A line, and I said that when I saw, and she said it is because I went to Chick-fil-A on one of the Battleground, I believe. She went to Chick-fil-A, took a picture, and was like, I think we should bring this style to our car dealership, because when people come up for their service, they're confused. Sometimes they don't know where to bring their car, and like the person that needs to help you is somewhere hidden in the car dealership. And so she's like, why don't we adopt what they do, where they come with their tablet right to your car, you go up in that line where they have the heat or the AC covering over you. Just very similar to Chick-fil-A.
And that's such a great model, because as we know, Chick-fil-A runs this operation like an army. You're in and out. When the line, might have 50, 60 people in it. What I really liked about this story is not only is it showing a woman, leading in a male-dominated field, but when she talked about her infertility, no matter your background, no matter what your job is as a woman, all of us, we kind of struggle with some of those same things, and we can be inspired by each other's stories.
We can.
Girl power. We'll be right back.
Now we talk about late day pop-up storms and showers this time of the year. Northern parts of our viewing area, especially the southern Virginia counties, getting a good dousing of rain right now. We'll show you the radar in a sec. 89 in Greensboro, 93 High Point, very hot in the southern half of the viewing area with Troy showing up 97 degrees, 94 in Pinehurst and Asheboro 92. Most of the temperatures around the border are closer to that 89 to 92 degree range. Virginia border we're talking about. Tonight 73, a few storms mainly in the evening, and then that 91 degree high for tomorrow. Again, late day storms. Here's what we're seeing now. Heaviest shower activity around the Danville and Martinsville area. You can see that lots of lightning within that. It looks like tens of bolts all up there, and that's from Martinsville, Danville to Mount Airy, all moving to the east. So King and Danbury will see that next, and then this shower in to the south of North Wilkesboro. North Wilkesboro kind of dodged a bullet, it looks like. Look at the 7-day though, and what we're calling for low 90s for the next couple of days. We'll go into the mid 80s after that. So the weekend rain chances go up a little bit to a 60%. Next week back to normal, and temperatures push back to the low 90s for Tuesday, Wednesday.
So yesterday we ran a story about minimum wage and how it's changed over the years, and our discussion after the story made us think about the art of tipping. So I asked you on my Facebook page, when is it appropriate to tip? Arthur Ship says anytime when the service is beyond what you expected. There's his comment there. And then Irma Wilkins wrote, always, it's already included. If it's already included on the bill, then no additional tip is due. Nolan Hyman says when your food is brought to you and a server checks to see if you're satisfied or need anything, tip at least 15%. But if you're at a buffet or a cafe where you fix your plate, drinks, and bring it to your table, then at least $1 per diner. Roger Evans says when a service is rendered, not when I make an order for food or go inside to check to the counter to pick it up, but if I pull up and you bring it to me and run inside to cash it out, a tip should be given. A tip is a show of appreciation of services. And then Flo Jane wrote, after any service, the amount depends on the quality of the service.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, I try to pick
so.
different comments because people really did have different ideas about this.
So I think, traditionally, if someone's coming to my table, or like he said, even a car hop back in the day would come out to your car to do something, you tip them. But if I'm going to your counter, and a lot of places now whip that little thing around and it says tip, I'm like, tip? I'm just,
what you mean?
Order
What did
my
you
sandwich.
do?
No.
Yeah. One of my pet peeves is when you are with a large group of people and the server adds like gratuity on
like
to
an
the bill
automatic
already, but does not tell you.
Yes.
Oh, and so then you add more.
Yes.
Which has happened to me.
Right, and so when I'm in large groups and we are going to a restaurant, I make a point of when I get my bill to check to see if the automatic gratuity has been added, and then if it has, I tell everybody, because I think that a server should tell you if they're adding the gratuity.
They should do that. I also wonder, what are your thoughts behind bad service? Because I still feel kind of guilty if I don't tip anything, but some people really do offer bad service. So do you still tip in that situation?
I tip 15% most of the time. If they're good, I do 20%. But if they're, I've only had a couple times in my life where it was so bad that I didn't tip, and it was maybe twice.
Yeah.
I think because I've been in the service industry, I always tip no matter what.
Well, stick around for my 2 cents because I give more of my opinion on the art of tipping and what you should do in certain situations where should you tip or not. We'll be right back. One, two, three. I plan to, so then I can eat. But I'm actually kind of hungry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mic check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey there, mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Check, check. 1, 2.
Okay, thank you. Hey, 10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2-1, 10-9-8-7-6-5.
Hey, mic check 1, 2, 3. Day 1 of training camp in the books. Head coach Matt rules.
Closing in just 2 days. Now, the final price for this, $130,000. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Sure, yeah, I wasn't either. Okay, this is station 14 off of Summit Avenue in Greensboro. It's one of the 4 stations.
That's my fault.
Oh.
That's me.
Hold on. Okay, how about now? Is my mic on? This is station 14 off of Summit Avenue in Greensboro. It's one of the 4 stations getting an upgrade.
It's time for my 2 cents. The art of tipping can be quite confusing depending on what situation you're in. The easiest scenario to me is when you're dining in at a restaurant. Your server brings you the bill and then you leave them a tip. Another scenario where tipping seems appropriate is when you're getting food delivered to your home. The pizza guy rings the doorbell and you give him a tip for his service. Your barber, nail tech, bartender, all situations when tipping seems appropriate. But within recent years, I've noticed counter service restaurants providing customers with the opportunity to tip when they're checking out at the register. I've seen this at coffee shops and even some of my favorite fast food restaurants. Should you tip at these places? When the cashier flips the iPad around and asks how much I want to tip, it's always an awkward moment. But for some reason, I always feel somewhat guilty. There's even some places that will ring a bell if you do tip, thus increasing the pressure to tip. When I was growing up, you always tipped someone who was waiting on you, not just for running the register. It's what my parents taught me. So when did that change? I think if you want to tip at the counter, that's great. But if you don't want to, that's okay too. I just think you shouldn't feel guilty about it either way. That's my 2 cents. That's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts now.
Yes, once again, we're on storm watch.